Do you ever have an idea that just like strikes you in the middle of the night and you don't quite know what to do with it? About 4 weeks ago, I had this idea hit me out of nowhere. There was no context and no explanation. It was just wizard clock. After lots of thinking, I think I've deciphered that wizard clock actually means Gothic stained glass dragon clock. Are you following? Is it clear as mud? I hope so. So that's what we're gonna do today, is we're gonna make this wizard clock that I've had in my brain for the last month and see what we get out of it. So, I have the basic idea of what this clock is gonna be. The plan as it stands is to take apart this old clock that we don't really use anymore in this house, scrap it for parts, and then take some wood, foam, and other materials to make this clock. So I have a lot of wish list items for this clock. One, it has to tell the time. That's the main function of a clock. The other thing is I would love it to be able to stand up on a table when I'm doing time-lapse shots. I also want it to look like I've pulled a window off of a castle and made it into a clock. I'm not gonna be carving stone or making real stained glass for this. Instead, I'm gonna be using some leftover foam that I have, acrylic, and some gallery glass paints, and trying to mimic the effect. Lastly, I do want to put a little ledge on the bottom where like 2 little dragons can be sleeping, because I think that'll just really add to the whimsy and the fantasy element and make it a little more cheerful than like too gothic. In my mind, it's gonna be Taryn and Darna from Fourth Wing, and what can I say? I love me a good romantasy book. So that's the rough plan. Do I know how I'm gonna accomplish this? Not fully, but step 1 is taking this bad boy apart. Okay. It appears there's only 4 little screws holding this guy together, so we're just gonna unscrew those and hope for the best. Okay, this should just come off. Okay, to map things out a little bit, I did design the stained glass pieces that I want to put into the clock later, and I've spaced them out accordingly. What I think is the best course of action is to just sketch out the full size that I want this to be, and then I can lay this on top of my foam and we can start cutting things out. Okay, I took some time to think this through, and with a lot of puzzle piecing, this is the shape I've ended up with. It's got this sort of arched top way, these little steps at the bottom that kind of graduate upwards, and then our 3 baby stained glass windows and our big clock face. I think this will be really nice once we get these guys in here and shorten up the hands. And this, I think, is a good template to start working from. I have some leftover insulation foam, and it luckily fits just perfectly on here. Okay, the next thing I want to try to tackle tonight before I go to bed is to do the rough sculpting of the 2 dragons. Since I have sort of the rough shape that I'm going for, I can kind of guesstimate sizes. When I went to the craft store, I was incredibly overwhelmed by the number of oven-baked clay options that were available. I thought there would just be like oven-baked clay, you buy it, there you go. I was wrong. So I just bought original Sculpey. If you use clay and know which one is right, let me know in the comments, because I have no idea. It said it was good for children and beginners, and I fall into that category. So we're gonna use that. I also am gonna use tinfoil to try to bulk out the model. I've seen a couple people do this online when they're making little guys, because if the whole thing is clay, A, it takes forever to bake, and B, it might explode or something. I don't really know. But the tinfoil can go in the oven, and it should cut down on how much clay we have to use. So I've never really done any sort of sculpting like this. It was a lot of trial and error, but what I ended up doing was making 2 little shapes and sizing them against the steps that I had already made for the rest of the clock. but it was really just feeling like that meme that's like draw 2 circles and you make an owl. Okay, I have a little sheet. Put his little body in there. Just... I don't know about this, you guys. I fear this is a big trust the process kind of project, and I am very afraid. From far away, it doesn't look as bad. Up close, it looks terrible. It's so lumpy. I took a good amount of time just smoothing out Taryn and giving him some more details that would come out when I painted him, like little spines in his back and horns in his head, as well as carving in some adorable little paws. From there, I started working on Andarna. She was a lot easier because she was a little bit smaller, and I wanted to sculpt her lying on her back in this adorable little sleeping pose that is basically the exact same way that my younger dog Stormy likes to sleep. And from there, we put them in the oven to bake. Good night, little guys. Okay, so I have this acrylic sheet that I bought from the dollar store. It's supposed to be like a little menu stand. I need to break this. And I think I can just kind of break this back piece off. It's breaking. My hope is that this is just cheap enough that it will kind of break on this spot. Okay, that worked well. Whew. Okay, that worked a lot better than expected. Next, I just traced out how big I needed the acrylic to be. I used my box cutter to score along that line, and then I just sort of pressed it against the edge of the table and it snapped along that marking. Okay, after that little adventure, I'm gonna start working on the stained glass part of this, which should be pretty easy. This reminds me a lot of if you've ever decorated cookies with royal icing. It's a very similar consistency. While that is drying and before I put the color on, I'm gonna work a little bit more on adding the stone detailing into this foam. What my thought is if I cut out a couple more layers of very thin foam, we can layer them in and make sort of an inset look around all of the windows. So that's what I'm gonna do. I went to the dollar store yesterday and bought one of my favorite crafting materials. This is Ready Board. It is a paper covered foam board. People use it for like school projects and stuff. This is great for D&D mini crafting, like crafting tabletop terrain. I've done that before. It carves really easily with either an X-Acto or like a box cutter. The paper means you can draw your designs on it initially, cut it out, and unlike other brands of foam core, the paper peels off this super easily. You can also buy like the Elmer's brand one. They're not as good because the paper does not come off. So if you can find the Ready Board specifically, I'd highly recommend it if you're gonna do any crafting like this. So I'm gonna trace this template out twice onto this board. We're gonna cut out some pieces and then start carving some more details. The carving process honestly went pretty quickly. With having the template made a world of difference, and it was just a matter of following the pencil markings that I put onto the paper side of the Ready Board. After everything was cut, I was able to peel off the paper and mark off any extra details like cutting out the window holes and the clock face hole. I also added some more detail on the second layer, a little ring where I'd be adding in some numbers later so that the clock actually could, tell time. From From there, it's just a matter of scoring with an X-Acto knife and then using a pencil to make the holes bigger and more noticeable. I also decided to add in Roman numeral numbers because I thought they would look cool, and then it was a lot of test fitting, cutting out all the windows. The last thing I did after I cut out all the pieces was use a little bit of balled up tin foil to create a stone-like texture on all the surfaces. You don't have to be precise, you just kind of mash it in there until it makes some marks. The last thing I did for the day was add the color onto the acrylic pieces. I'd gone ahead and done a little test piece, which you saw there, just testing out all the colors, seeing what they looked like, especially if I mixed them with black or white. I found that some swirly patterns were actually really pretty and added to the interest of it all because I only had the basic primary colors. And so I just spent time, you know, filling in the holes. Alrighty, it's time to finally paint everything up. I think that's kind of my last step at this point, is to paint up all of the foam and the dragons, and then we can assemble everything, and the project's pretty well done. My plan for the dragons is to do a couple layers with dry brushing, so to do that I gotta get a base layer down and then we can dry brush everything over top of that. So, step one, I'm gonna do Tarn. I feel like this paint doesn't want to stick to the clay, but that's all right. This will just be like a primer layer. After the first coat of paint was done, I went in with a bright gold and dry brushed it over the surface on Andarna. This really just allows the shadows to stay dark with that original color, but the bright gold to pop on all of the highlights. I did the same thing on Tarn, but I used the color that I base coated Andarna in, so that it was a more subtle gold effect. I know he's not like this in the books, but I like the idea of him having a little bit of a gold accent to match Andarna. Next, I sealed in all the foam using black paint and Mod Podge combined together. Not only does this protect the foam and make it a little bit more sturdy, it also provides a nice base layer that we can put the detail on later. After that first coat was done, I did some of the assembly as well to make it a little bit easier going forward. If you saw me painting the stone wall in this room, this technique's gonna look pretty familiar. Basically what I'm gonna do is I have my black base with all my texture in it. I'm gonna take a big fluffy brush and I'm just going to dry brush over all of the black with lighter and lighter grays in an attempt to leave the shadows dark, but bring out some of that nice stone textured detail we made earlier. At this point, I found that the numbers were a little bit hard to see, so I added some gold into them to hopefully help them pop. It kind of made them look a little bit messy, but it does make it easier to read the numbers from farther away, so, you know, a win's a win. Lastly, it was just a matter of assembling everything together. I put the acrylic in between the two pieces of foam, bit of hot glue, stuck them together. I didn't want the hands on my clock to be a basic black color, so I used my Cricut to cut out some metallic cardstock, cut everything to size, and then glued them all together. It's a really nice shiny pop, and they really look like metal in the final result. From there, it's just a matter of sticking all the clock pieces together and gluing the dragons down. Okay, I'm not gonna fully show it to you guys yet because it looks so cool. I want to save it for the reveals, but I'm gonna wait till it's nice and light out and then I can show you this incredible clock in all of its glory. I'm so excited. All right, to the reveal. stinking cool this clock turned out. I am so glad I could upcycle what would have been garbage into just this incredible fantasy decor piece. If you enjoyed watching me transform that garbage clock into this, consider subscribing. I do fantasy DIYs every week and I've been having a really fun time and would love if you would come on that journey with me. If you've already subscribed, consider commenting or liking this video. I genuinely love hearing from all of you. I get so excited anytime I see a notification that there's a new comment on my videos. Let me know what you thought of the project, whether you liked the clock, whether you didn't, whether you thought that Taryn and Darna were not accurate enough to the books. I agree, they're a little bit cartoony, but also they're adorable, so I will hear no slander. I had such a good time getting to play with gallery glass and the polymer clay this week, both skills I have never tried before, but both skills I think I will almost 100% revisit at some point in the near future. The sculpting is definitely something you can get better at. These are a little rough, but they are adorable and I love them with all of my heart. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video and I'll see you guys next week.